No one expected that one furious confession from Kat would be enough to shake the entire Dupree mansion. In the span of a single evening, all the secrets Eva had worked so hard to bury began to crack open. From sleeping with Kat's boyfriend, to using Ted with the exact same tricks Leslie once used to manipulate the whole family. And when Ted decided to confront Eva, everything grew even darker: tears, half-baked apologies, stories that were half-truths and half-lies. No one could tell what was real and what was just a performance. But the most terrifying part came the moment Ted walked out of the room. Eva's tears vanished instantly, giving way to a chilling smile. A smile that revealed something no one had dared to imagine. Eva wasn't just like Leslie, she was becoming an even more dangerous version. And the war within the Dupree family was only just beginning. Ted left Kat's house with a heaviness he couldn't even name. Kat's words kept looping in his mind like a damaged recording being rewound and replayed until it warped out of shape. Eva slept with Kat's boyfriend. Eva is two-faced. Eva is using him. Eva is playing the victim exactly the way Leslie once did. And what twisted his heart the most was that Kat had said all of that with a deep, raw desperation, as if she no longer trusted anyone enough to show that kind of anger unless it was the truth. He drove back to the mansion, his hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly his knuckles turned white. He tried to convince himself that Kat had exaggerated, that she was just hurt, that even mistakes and all had truly tried to change. But every old image, every wound from the past with Leslie, every moment he'd been manipulated by tears and empty promises, all of it came back to life with terrifying clarity. When he stepped inside, the quiet of the mansion made him feel as if he were walking into a different version of the past. Eva was sitting in the living room, as elegant as always, but her eyes were slightly swollen, as if she had just been crying or arguing with someone. The sight made Ted's heart sink. A part of him wanted to run to her, pull her into his arms, shield her from the whole world. Another part wanted to turn around and walk away as fast as he could, because he knew those glistening eyes could just as easily be a weapon. When he gently brought up what Kat had said about the anniversary party and her sleeping with Kat's boyfriend, the atmosphere in the room shifted instantly. Eva went rigid, her face flickering with brief confusion before it hardened into offended disbelief. Her defensiveness rose so quickly that Ted realized he had just touched on something Eva never wanted anyone to mention. But instead of explaining, Eva twisted the conversation in a familiar direction. She said Kat was jealous, unstable, prone to exaggeration, and always convinced the world was against her. Ted heard every word, but for the first time in years, he didn't swallow them as unquestionable truth. Suspicion slipped in light, but sharp. He watched the way Eva altered her tone, the way her eyes filled at just the right moment, the way her hand trembled only enough to stir pity. He had seen this before, in Leslie. And that realization made him shudder. Eva cried, truly cried, or at least the tears were real. Ted couldn't tell where genuine emotion ended and where the performance began, where the skill she had learned from her scheming mother took over. When he pressed further, Eva lowered her head and admitted she had made mistakes, but firmly refused to give details. Half-truth, half-lie, the familiar tactic Leslie had always used, keeping people caught between compassion and doubt, never certain enough to walk away. For a brief moment, Ted saw it clearly: Eva was trying to control the conversation. Every gesture was designed to keep him locked in guilt, in sympathy, in the conviction that he needed to protect her. Just like Leslie had once kept him tethered with sweet words laced with those carefully crafted, agonized tears that ultimately cost him Nicole. The thought made his whole body go cold. But Eva was not Leslie. He had told himself that so many times it had become a shield, something he hid behind whenever the small warning signs began to appear over the years. If he admitted Eva was two-faced, he would have to admit that he had allowed history to repeat itself. That he had once again failed with a woman much younger than him, a woman he had pulled into his life with a kind of love stained by his need for redemption. Ted could not bear the thought that he had been wrong again. Eva saw that hesitation in his eyes. She seized it, turned it, shaped it into what she needed it to be, the feeling that she was the victim, that Kat was the one exaggerating things to destroy her, that Ted was the only one who truly understood and protected her. She sobbed in his arms, and he felt himself choke on a maze of emotions: anger, pity, fear, and shame. In the end, Ted didn't ask any more questions. He offered a few comforting words, a few promises, then left the room more unsettled than when he had arrived. He needed silence. He needed to think. He needed the truth, but he was afraid of it. The bedroom door closed, leaving Eva standing in front of the bathroom mirror. Her breathing slowed, her tears drying as quickly as they'd fallen. She stared at herself, lips curling into a small triumphant smile that was cool and sharp. In the reflection, she saw Leslie not in the way she had once feared, but in the way she had learned from, cold, intelligent, and able to pinpoint exactly where others were weakest in press. She whispered something under her breath, like a reminder, like a curse, like a proud conviction no one could take from her. Kat would never win. That smile vanished the moment she heard Tomas' footsteps downstairs. In an instant, Eva slipped back into her gentle, vulnerable, loving persona, the version of herself Tomas always saw. She knew that as long as Tomas believed in her, Ted would hesitate, and if Ted hesitated, Kat would always be the one branded as too emotional. But deep inside, another kind of fear tightened in Eva's throat. If Ted ever discovered the whole truth. The way she had deliberately sown division between Leslie and Tomas back then, how sleeping with Kat's boyfriend hadn't been a moment of weakness but a calculated test to see just how far Kat could be broken, how she had tried to push Tomas into suspicion just to pull him back into depending on her, then everything would collapse. Eva asked herself whether she truly loved Tomas. Because if it was love, why did it come with this constant terror of exposure? Why did she have to hide? Why did she keep the darkest parts of herself locked away, afraid that if Tomas ever saw them, he wouldn't see Eva anymore, he would see Leslie in her, the very Leslie she despised yet could never escape. That night, lying beside Tomas, Eva clung to his hand as if even a stray breeze could steal him away. But inside her, a voice whispered, if the truth comes out, Tomas will never look at you like this again. And Leslie will punish you. Not with words, but with disappointment. The one thing Eva feared more than any other punishment. Meanwhile, Ted sat alone on the veranda, the glass in his hand tilting gently with his breathing. He forced himself to face the question he'd been dodging for so long, the one Kat had driven straight into his chest. Was he truly naive about Eva's duplicity, or had he always known and chosen to lie to himself out of guilt? He had abandoned Eva during a crucial phase of her life, had left her to grow up in the chaos Leslie created, and a part of him had always believed he owed her something. The truth hurt. Maybe he had used the word love to mask his bad decisions. Maybe he had chosen blindness to preserve the illusion that he had not recreated the same tragedy. Kat appeared in his mind, her determined gaze as she held onto him, her voice trembling but firm as she vowed she would never accept Eva. Ted realized she hadn't said that to win. She'd said it to protect herself from someone she saw more clearly than anyone else. He understood now that only two paths lay ahead, either he continued to forgive, to swallow his tears, to let Eva steer everything to her advantage, just as Leslie once had, or he would protect Kat, protect himself, protect the rest of his life from being dragged into another storm of lies and manipulation. But the truth was, Ted wasn't ready to choose. He was afraid of the past. Afraid of repeating it. Afraid of confronting it. Afraid that if he learned everything, he would have to shatter the image of himself as the good man, the redeemer, that he had worked so hard to build. And more than anything, he was afraid that if he exposed Eva, his heart already torn once by Leslie would not survive another wound. In the darkness, Ted closed his eyes and let the cold wind slap against his face like an attempt to wake him. But even the wind could not blow away the feeling that everything was slowly slipping out of his control. And once the truth exploded, it wouldn't just take one person down, the whole family would be pulled into a storm no one had prepared for. Ted suddenly understood that the question was no longer, does Eva have two faces? The question was, when everything is finally exposed, whose side will he stand on? But what no one in the Dupree family realizes is that the real storm hasn't even begun. While Ted quietly retreats to his room, Kat drowns in fury, and Tomas still believes in the gentle image Eva has crafted. One small detail, accidentally overlooked, is about to change everything. The bracelet Eva claimed to have lost long ago suddenly reappears, lying in the drawer of Leslie's room. No one knows how it got there. No one knows who saw it first. And even more than that, no one knows that this tiny object is about to drag up a chain of secrets Eva never wanted unearthed. Will Ted finally connect the pieces he spent so long ignoring? Will Tomas discover who Eva really is before it's too late? Or will Kat be the first to see the whole picture, and be willing to blow the family apart just to protect the truth? A new secret has surfaced. And when truth and lies collide, who will be the last one standing? See you in the next part, where things get even darker than you expect.